Hey everybody, and welcome back to our cheap meals series. Today we are going to be making a tried and true staple in cheap food. People have been eating it for thousands and thousands of years, and that is bread. Now I know bread can be intimidating to a lot of people. The idea of making your own bread at home can be very overwhelming, but I promise this no-knead bread recipe is so easy. You'll be willing to make bread for your family fresh every week. It's really simple. There's only 4 ingredients, which is flour, salt, yeast, and water. And I mean it when I tell you the hardest part about this recipe is making sure that the water is the right temperature, because the water needs to be about 105 to 110 degrees, which I do have it temping, and I'm at like 105 right there. So we are in the sweet spot. So to start, you will need 3 cups of flour, 1.5 cups of water. Again, that is going to be 105 to 110 degrees. A teaspoon and a half of salt, and 2 teaspoons of yeast. Now I always use just the dry active yeast. I don't use instant yeast. So, all right, now that we have our ingredients, we are going to just dump the salt in and dump the yeast in. So this part is also something that makes this recipe very special. It's that you don't have to bloom the yeast before, you just dump it all in. Now I like to mix that together so that the yeast and the salt are already kind of throughout the flour, and then I like to add my water. You're just going to dump that water in. And then it's just mixing it. I like to use a wooden spoon so that I can really scrape the bowl sides as I go. But you could use your hands if you wanted to. We are going to use our hands a little bit here in a second. Alright, we kind of have what's called a shaggy dough. It's not smooth. It's just kind of, it looks shaggy. Hence the name. But this is what your dough is going to look like. And now to save on dishes and cleaning, I'm just going to pick this dough off the spoon. We are going to take this out quick, plop it on our counter, which I did sanitize beforehand. Always make sure that you sanitize your counters before putting food on them. I'm going to wash my hands quick before I grease the bowl. Alright, so now we have our bread combined. We are going to grease our bowl. I don't know if you guys have seen something like this before, but this is a misto, and you just fill it with vegetable oil or peanut oil, whatever oil you would like. And it's like a reusable spray. So instead of those Pam aerosol cans, you just use this. Way cheaper. But I love this thing. I found it at Walmart. I think it was five-ish bucks. but we've had it for a long time. So then I'm just gonna spread the grease around a little bit more and then scoop our dough and do a nice ball. So it's gonna look like this. Our hands are messy again, so I'm gonna wash these again really quick. And now I pre-dampened this towel, and we are going to just lay this damp towel over our bowl, and it's going to work its magic. So now we have our bowl, we have it covered with a damp towel. We are gonna set it someplace safe and warm in the kitchen. I like to put mine on top of the stove. And we are going to let it rise for 12 to 15 hours just out on the counter. If you want to leave it out, or if you want to let it rise for more than 15 to 18 hours, you're going to want to pop it in the fridge, and you're going to probably want to bake it around that 24-hour mark. So we're going to let our bread do its thing, and I will see you in 15 hours. All right, so it has been 15 hours of letting our dough rise. I've dampened the towel again a few times. I forgot to mention that, but you definitely want to make sure that you're changing out the towel or re-dampening it. Otherwise, the top of your dough is going to dry out. So we're going to put that right there. And then for the next part, we are going to preheat our oven to 450 degrees. Now I am going to be using my Dutch oven to bake this in. You can use a sheet pan, and for that you'd probably just want to shape your dough into a loaf versus it's going to be more like a bowl in the Dutch oven. And then put it on the baking sheet, and you're going to want to put another pan in there that has some water in it to steam to help keep the inside of the bread nice and moist. So Dutch oven is going to go into our oven that's preheating with the lid on. That's important. So I'm going to put that in there right now. Side note real quick, my Dutch oven, the outside, I cannot get all those grease stains off. So if you guys have any tips on that, let me know in the comments down below, because it drives me batty. But I've tried the pink stuff, I've tried Barkeeper's Friend, I've tried just soaking it in Dawn, trying to get that off, and I just can't. So, all right, so now moving on to our dough for the next part, we are going to take it out, we're going to shape it, put it on parchment, and then put it back in the bowl and let it rise for about another half an hour. So here's our dough. You can see it is nice and bubbly, which is exactly what you want. And then for your parchment paper, you just want it to be a little bit bigger, probably an inch on each side of the bowl to fit your dough. And then we're just going to pull from the sides into the center. Pull it out. Again, this is a pretty sticky dough, and we're just going to shape it into that ball. I'm gonna scrape what little bit I can still get off the bowl. Onto there. We're gonna plop it back in the bowl. And we're going to re-cover it with a damp towel. And then now we're going to move our dough back on top of the oven, which is preheating right now. So it's going to be a nice warm spot for it. And we're going to let it rise again. So this is the second rise. We're going to let it rise for about 30 minutes. And our oven should be at temperature then. And then we'll start the baking process. All right, our oven has preheated to 450 degrees. Our Dutch oven has been in there with the lid on while it came to temperature. Our dough has been rising for the second time for a little over half an hour. So we're going to take the Dutch oven out. Take the lid off. So here is our dough ball, and we're going to take it out. You can hear it sizzle when it hits the bottom of the Dutch oven. And you're just going to place it in there, and now we are going to put the lid back on and put the Dutch oven with the bread loaf back in the oven. And we're going to cook it with the lid on for 30 minutes. So we're going to let the bread cook with the lid on for 30 minutes, come back, take it out of the oven, remove the lid, and then put it back in so that the top gets all nice and golden brown. And it's going to have a real nice crust to it. So I will see you again in 30 minutes. Okay, so our bread has been baking for 30 minutes in the Dutch oven with the lid on. So we're going to pull that out and take off the lid and put it back for 15 minutes. So just so you can see what it's looking like, it's getting these nice cracks. It's got a good crust going on, and now the last little bit is just to get this nice and golden brown. So back in the oven it goes for 15 minutes. And I will see you again in just a little bit. So our bread has been in the oven without a lid on for 15 minutes. So we're going to pull that out. And carefully, we're going to lift it by the parchment and set it over here. Turn the oven off. And you can see just like the beautiful crust that has been created. And it's nice and golden. We're going to push down the parchment sides. Now what I like to do is just take a tablespoon of butter, kind of just rub it, stick it with a fork. You could melt it a little bit and use a pastry brush, but I just stick it with the fork and rub the nice melty butter all over the crust, just for some extra flavor. All right, so we are going to let our bread just rest. I'm going to let it rest, and then we're going to come back, we'll cut it open, and we'll try a piece. All right, so our bread has been cooling, and so it's nice and cold. It's soft, but there's a crust. We're going to go ahead and cut it. Look at that. Nice little air bubbles, soft. I'm gonna try some without butter. It's got a good crust, but it's nice and airy and chewy. Salty, but not too salty. It doesn't have, sometimes you can get that overwhelming yeast flavor. That's not the case with this. But if you really want to taste homemade bread in all of its glory, you gotta butter it. That was a big bite, but oh my gosh, it is so good. Seriously, this bread recipe is so easy. It will build your confidence and make you comfortable with making bread. Let me know in the comment section down below your favorite bread recipes, and also if there's any other recipes you'd like me to try out on the channel. And I hope you enjoy this just as much as our family does. I'll see you guys on the next one.